Hello guys, welcome back to the Spoiler Alert channel. In this video, I will tell you about an action film called The Guillotines, which was released in 2012. This film tells the story of an elite imperial troop assigned to kill anyone who opposes the emperor. But after the empire was replaced, this army would be replaced with more advanced weapons technology. From there, the Hunter army realized that what they had been doing was wrong. Then, will they rebel? Rather than being curious, let's see the storyline. The film opens in the civilization of the Qing dynasty ordered by the Yongzheng emperor, where this emperor formed a secret assassination force known as the Guillotines. Usually these Guillotines were assigned to kill anyone who hated and threatened the emperor. However, the Qing dynasty government acted harshly by oppressing the Han nation. Because of this, many citizens rebelled to seek justice. The rebellion was also assisted by the rebel leader, who is often referred to as Wolf or Tian Lang. Wolf's followers, known as herders, were also quite numerous, because he promised to free the citizens from the oppression carried out by the king's government. One night when Wolf was gathering with his followers, he found out that one of them was a government spy. So without further ado, Wolf immediately stabbed the person. At that moment, Guillotinos appeared to attack Wolf and the others, using his epic weapon that was round and sharp. So sharp, the weapon could also behead a human. The members of the Guillotines consisted of the leader, Lang. Then there were Musin, Hujia, Shisan, Chentai, Hutu, Su, and also Buka. Using these weapons, they finally managed to capture Wolf. Here I explain a little about the Guillotines, which is a group of assassins created by the Qing dynasty. All members of the Guillotines came from Manchuria and were under the orders of the emperor. And to maintain their loyalty, members of the Guillotines were forbidden to learn to read and write. The next day, Wolf was put in the castle prison. There, Lang then met Wolf to ask what plans he had made with his followers. However, Wolf did not care about the discussion and instead said that he knew about his fate to be killed by Lang. And because of his mistake as a rebel leader, Wolf would be executed. The next day, we are shown the rebels being executed by beheading. Then shortly after, a group of soldiers take Wolf, who is also going to be executed. But at the same time, a man suddenly appears from above and frees Wolf. It turns out that the man is not alone, because he and other rebels come to fight the soldiers and help Wolf. In the commotion, the rebels were superior and were able to fight several other soldiers. Until finally the Guillotines' troops appeared and surrounded them.
Go!
The fight between them continued, where Musin threw his signature weapon at Wolf. Luckily, Wolf managed to block it using his sword and then caught Musin hostage. Musin called on the others to attack Wolf no matter what the consequences. Meanwhile, the rebels had prepared a bomb for the next attack, and only a few seconds later, the bomb exploded, destroying the entire village. It was at that moment that the other members of the Guillotines realized that Musin had disappeared along with Wolf. Then when the Guillotines returned to the temple, the head of the Guillotines, Ergyagong-yi, held a funeral ceremony for Musin, because he thought that Muzin had died without searching for him first. Not only that, he also called on the others to continue their duties to hunt down Wolf. They also lured Wolf into being interested in them by holding one of the rebels named Bailan hostage. In addition, Emperor Yongshen's son, Emperor Chanlong, will send his trusted agent named Haidu for the same mission. The next scene shows when the Guillotines were still small, where the Emperor chose Haidu and Leng to accompany his son to play. After a long time of training, the Emperor chose Leng to lead the Guillotines, while Haidu remained with the Emperor's son. This triggered the adult Haidu to feel unfair because he considered Leng not strong enough. On the other hand, Mensu was tied up in a hut, then released, and tied up again before he was finally beaten by a group of unknown people. Meanwhile, the Guillotines then put Bailan in the well, and if they fail to find Muzin, then they will come back to kill her. Seeing this, Haidu also disagrees with them because it is not part of their duties. However, Leng does not care and just leaves with the other Guillotines while Haidu stays to accompany Bailan. Leng and the others then went to Woguan area. There he saw Wolf giving a lecture to the villagers. Initially, the other Guillotines were ready to attack, but they immediately stopped after seeing several villagers who were also preparing weapons. However, their views were diverted after the guards arrived, giving Wolf a chance to escape. Leng then asked the local merchants, who told him that there was a traveler who was willing to buy a cow and a lot of gunpowder. Leng was convinced that the traveler was Wolf. Elsewhere, Wolf frees Musin's bonds, but Musin immediately attacks Wolf, forcing Wolf to attack back and knock him out. Meanwhile, Su, who was walking around the village, suddenly became a mugger by a man. Su chased the man to his house and beat him, but his actions immediately stopped when he saw that the man had many children. So Su let them have the money and also the medal. Back to Leng and the other Guillotines who went to watch the puppet show. It showed two people fighting, and one of them cut off the opponent's leg. After that, Leng and the others found a written leaflet and also red paper that had been cut into pieces. They tried to put it together, but because the Guillotines couldn't read, Haidu tried to read it to them. It turned out that the contents of the writing were instructions from the Wolf, who told his followers to go to the Chios Paisi shop. Without saying much, Haidu and Leng immediately went there. When they arrived there, the two saw the residents who had been freed by the Wolf from slavery. There, the Wolf revealed the cruelty of the dynasty that continued to oppress the little people and kill innocent people. That's why Wolf invited them to join in eradicating the dynasty's cruelty. In the middle of his lecture, Wolf then walked towards Leng and held his head, making Leng remember his harsh past. Then when Haidu was about to attack Wolf, people immediately stopped him, and Wolf managed to escape. Get out! After that, Leng was approached by a little boy who handed Su's medal to him. Leng also remembered the puppet show he saw and told about a duel between two people who cut off one of their opponent's legs. So Leng immediately went to see Su, who was guarding the well. And sure enough, Su was dying after his leg was cut off by an unknown person. This also made Leng realize that the puppet stories in the village were stories that had been designed by the Wolf. As a result, Si-san went to the puppet show and killed the puppeteer. Because of this commotion, the villagers were angry and tried to attack the Guillotines. After burying Su, Leng and the others made plans to attack. They found that there was a place inhabited by people with smallpox, so it was a place that was rarely passed by people. There were also many red papers pasted on the door, so they went straight there and burned the place. On the other hand, Wolf again opened the code written on a piece of paper that invited Leng to meet and bring Bailan. Likewise with Wolf, who will bring Musin before Leng meets him, Haidu reminds him to retreat to save his own life, given that Wolf is a great opponent. However, Leng refuses and insists on saving Musin. So finally, Haidu tells the secret that Qianlong will serve as emperor, and that's when he will replace the Guillotines with sophisticated armed forces. As a result, for his last step in the Guillotines, Leng will still defeat Wolf, and after that, Leng will let his members go to live their new lives, while Leng will go with Haidu. Elsewhere, Wolf then fed Musin before finally telling the true story of the dynasty's cruelty. Where Wolf's father was also a victim of the Yongsheng Empire, he was beheaded just because Wolf's father wrote a book about the Ming dynasty, which finally triggered the Qing dynasty. From there, Wolf lived with his 3 brothers. However, Emperor Yongsheng instead ordered his right-hand man, who was Musin's father and the head of the Guillotines, to slaughter all 4 children, and only Wolf survived. From there, Wolf began to live alone and was haunted by the cruel incident. After hearing the story, Musin felt guilty because the members of the Guillotines always got a salary of 10 taels for each beheading of their opponent, and later the head would be displayed in the temple as a trophy of their achievements. Now the day of the exchange has arrived. There the Guillotines and the Wolf party met. But when they were about to exchange Bailan with Musin, suddenly troops armed with guns appeared and attacked the herders and shot Bailan. Leng was shocked by the attack and scolded Haidu because his armed forces attacked suddenly, while Haidu had no other choice because it was the emperor's will. Seeing Bailan, who was seriously injured, Musin and the Wolf took him away while the Guillotines attacked the armed forces. Fortunately, in this attack, the Guillotines and herders managed to survive and escape to a safe place. This incident also reached the ears of Emperor Qianlong, and finally he decided to sentence all members of the Guillotines to death for betraying the emperor by defending the enemy. In addition, Leng told his members to go as far as possible to be free from the emperor's punishment. He also told everything about the emperor, who wanted to replace the Guillotines with armed forces. He knew this because Leng was a team and Haidu who worked for the emperor. Of course, this fact made the other Guillotines furious. Even so, Leng wanted his members to leave safely and survive. Now the emperor made an announcement for anyone who found and killed the guerrillas. They would get a reward. So as time went by, the guerrillas were killed cruelly one by one. Of course, this incident made Leng sad and angry because the gunmen did not let his friends go. However, Haidu also did not accept Leng's angry attitude. As a result, Haidu pushed Leng down the cliff. Fortunately, Leng was found by Wolf and treated until he recovered in a remote village. Seeing the friendly villagers who lived peacefully, Leng felt welcomed by them. Leng then asked Wolf why he saved her, even though she had always been evil and always wanted to kill Wolf. Wolf also said that he felt sorry for Leng because previously Wolf had often helped other people who also had no goals anymore. There, Leng also found Musin, who was now a permanent resident, and said that he no longer wanted to be a guerrilla because he already knew how cruel the guerrilla was to innocent people. After pondering everything, Leng finally admitted that he was actually a Han person, while the Han people were usually used as slaves by the emperor. However, Emperor Yongsheng chose Leng to be Emperor Yanglong's right-hand man, and his Han identity was replaced with a Manchurian identity. Although Leng is now on Wolf's side, Wolf predicted that his death would be at Leng's hands. A few days later, Emperor Qianlong directed his armed forces to attack Wolf's village and his followers. They immediately took the residents to evacuate, while Wolf, Musin, Leng, and the other herders remained behind to counterattack. In this battle, Haidu's troops used firearms and cannons. As a result, the entire village was quickly overthrown, and unfortunately, Musin was shot in this attack. Leng also cried about Musin's death. Haidu then completely destroys the Han village and finds Leng on the edge of the mountain with Wolf. Wolf then thinks that it is time to declare peace with the emperor and asks Leng to kill him to end the war. Leng is forced to kill Wolf and cut off his head. After the incident, Haidu and Leng returned to the palace while carrying Wolf's head. They then presented the head to Emperor Qianlong as proof of the rebels' defeat. Leng and Haidu also received praise from the emperor and believed that their glory days in leading the Qing dynasty would be successful. However, Leng emphasized to Emperor Qianlong that as long as he continued to oppress the little people and commit atrocities, his glory days would never come. Therefore, Leng reminded the emperor to make peace and alleviate the suffering of the people to maintain his vision. And because Emperor Qianlong had the goal of eradicating the Guillotines, Leng, who was part of them, surrendered himself to be killed. Hearing this, Haidu tried to stop Leng's actions, but Leng remained adamant. As a result, the emperor still executed Leng. The credits explain that Emperor Qianlong was one of the longest rulers who managed to maintain peace between Manchuria and Han. However, in history, there was no mention of the Guillotines during his reign. The film ends.